Hello, everybody. Today we are going to start something about what we have gone through previously. I'm going to give you the definition. We have gone through BNF, and we have also seen extended BNF, that is extended Barkas-Nor form, which we have seen our previous video. Here we are going to see something about before I move on to passing tree, which as per the, let me go through this one. I think so probably there is a, yeah. If I go through this one, I have gone through this one, BNF, ENF, or common programming language. If I go to the passing tree, before I go to the passing tree, I want to discuss something about context-free grammar. So based on that one, we'll move on because that will be very helpful. So what is context-free grammar? CFG, if you see our previous slides, let me explain through it. This one, correct? This is context-free grammar. We are going to see what actually does it means. What actually, because we have seen about different things about BNF, how to write the syntax. We have got extended BNF. We know how to write the syntax and everything. So we are going to see what do you mean by context-free grammar. That is major part of this one, which is very important part of it. All right. Context-free grammar consists of finite set of grammar rule which are four set. What are the four set which it is been specified? Let me go through this one. Pen. What four set? What are the four set? Context-free grammar consists of four set. N, P, T, S. N is a set of non-terminals. We have seen what do you mean by non-terminal. Sentence, expression, list of numbers, and many other things are there. And T is a set of terminals, which we have already seen what do you mean by terminal, that is plus, minus, star, or so on, so while loop, or something like that. Plus, if you have terminal intersection non-terminal, then we'll get null. Yes, there is no common thing between them, so we have to get the null rule, that is one thing. And what are the rules you are going to apply on that set? And non-terminals and non-terminal, there are set of rules which you are going to apply. That rule is defined by P, which is given by this number, and then there is a start symbol which we call it as S. So now if you have a grammar, we know any grammar or something like that, we can tell that it is of four set which have got terminal, and then which have got non-terminal, and then what are the rules of it and how it is going to start it. If you say something like that, if let's take an example, you've started from your home, that is your starting point. What are the rules? You are getting into the bus and everything. There are some rules which you have to sit in the bus or in a bike or something like that. Plus, what are the terminals? Means who are getting into the bus and who are getting into the bus. Sorry, what are non-terminal? Who are the students who are getting into the bus and everything. Terminal is your driver, which is already there. There is no thing. If there is a driver or something like that, then that is part. And if the bus is full, then you cannot add that one. So these are the rules which we apply on a bus. What are the rules you apply on a bus? Example which comes up that you start from your home, that is your starting point. Then the rules are that you are not going to get down. There are some rules which you have to properly address or something like that. You cannot get down, the timing of the bus and everything. There are set of rules which we define on that one. And then there are a number of students who get number of non-terminals. There are students who are getting in. So we cannot define how many students are there. We cannot divide that student 1, 2, 3, 4. We call it as non-terminals, where terminals are nothing but your drivers or something like that, which you cannot divide it. So these are the part which we can go according to that one. So context-free grammar is something if you give any grammar or any sentence which follows this basic principle. NPTS. N is nothing but non-terminal, T is nothing but your terminals, P is a set of rules, and S is a starting symbol of it. These are something which we have to go through. So if they ask you what do you mean by context-free grammar, then you have to explain this example. Let me go through this, what do you call this one. What is CFG, context-free grammar? So we can say it is NPTS or NTPS, which is non-terminal, terminal, rules, starting point, correct? Which is defined by NPTS, correct? These are the things. We know what you mean by non-terminal. We have already seen what you mean by terminal. We have seen what are the rules which follow on that one. That's simple rules. And this is a starting point, which we have to go through it. These are the rules which follow in the context-free grammar. Now let's move on to other things, slides. Parsing tree. What do you mean by parsing tree? Parsing tree, if you see it, it is something about parsing tree. Derivation tree. What do you mean by derivation tree? It represents how your program is executed, how the step-by-step process executed, how an expression get executed. It represents a syntactic structure of a string according to some context-free grammar. Means structure, how the string is getting. Parsing tree may be generated for sentences in natural language or something like that. Like, let's take example. I have got a program here. We have got statement, then there is a statement, there is a variable is equal to expression, then term, a statement which is going to execute down the order, how the statements are executed. The constitute based parsing tree for constitution grammar distinguish between terminal and non-terminal. We'll see in an example with this one. Basic idea of a parsing tree is that how you derive a program or how the program is executed, how the expression is being executed on a program or something like that. Definition of that one. On an example which we have given, see example, there is a sentence which we say here. There is a sentence, there is a noun, verb phrase and noun phrase. Noun phrase, article and noun, verb phrase and noun. The rat ate cheese. The comes an article. The noun is something about rat. Verb is he eating, and what is eating is cheese. So the sentence is divided into different format. For an example, is there any example which I have given? No. Let's go to an example which I have seen, and I'll explain you with all those examples. Control A, delete. Let's take an example. I have got an expression A which is given everywhere. Example, A is equal to B plus C plus D. Correct? We start here with a slowly. Let's take an example. We have got an expression which has got, it cannot be divided into not more than 3. Correct? We get it as ID. We take this as is equal to, correct, and we take it as expression, or we call it as this is a starting symbol. Correct? ID, what do you mean by ID? We take it as A. It cannot be divided, is equal to, we got expression, we got it as ID, and this cannot be divided not more than 3. Remember this one, we cannot divide that expression not more than 3. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it cannot be more than 3. Remember this one, please. Cannot be more than 3 division. Okay, now in expression I've got ID, I've got plus, I've got expression. Okay, what is ID? I've got B, and again I've got this one as ID plus expression. What is an ID? I've got flower bracket, and I've got ID, I've got plus, I've got expression. What is an ID? Again, I have got C. We have already got C. We have got ID plus expression. What is this ID? I have got D. I've got D, and then this is an ID, and I've got it as bracket. Okay. This is one thing. If you can able to see, fine. If you cannot able to see, I'll just write down here. Where's my pen goes up? I'll take this one and this one. Okay. Now see this one. These are all see this one. A, B, this, this. These are called leaf node. These are all called intermediate node. These are all called intermediate node. Correct. And let's take example. A is equal to B open bracket, C plus D, D. We'll see one more example, how you can divide this one. Okay, what do you mean by this? Leaf node, which cannot be divided, intermediate node, which can be intermediate node, intermediate node, which can be divided, and above all, this is what your starting point. Yes, is it not? According to our CFG, context free grammar, we have got a starting point or something like that. Again, let's take an example. I'll just rub this one. Again, I'll go for again with an example. I'll give you one more. C is equal to B plus D. Starting or expression. We call it as ID, left hand side, plus, it cannot be divided into more than 3. Expression, we have already got C, plus we have got this one ID, and this is call it as expression. We open this one as ID. I'll take this one here into this one, correct? And I'll take this one and ID, and this is C, sorry. This is C, and then we call it as expression. Expression is nothing but we call, I'm going to through this one. So expression is divided into C already there. Expression is nothing but, yes, we have got this one, sorry, not C, this is open bracket. Then this is expression B, ID plus expression. ID is nothing but B. We have already got B. Then this is called D, ID, and this is expression. ID is D. Then I got this on ID, and this I can call it as open bracket. So these, if you see this one, these are all terminals, non-terminals, which cannot be divided, and we call them as a leaf node. Plus, with how the expressions are divided, how, if you see it, we are going down the line, executing all the part. This is called as passing tree. This is called as passing tree. Now, other part is that we finished with this one. What do you mean by passing tree? Passing tree is nothing but we have divided the expression, or we have given the expression, and how it is been executed based on that one. Now we go to ambiguous grammar. What do you mean by ambiguous grammar? A grammar, type of a grammar. There are two types of grammar which we specify: ambiguous grammar and non-ambiguous grammar. Remember, there are two types of grammar which is already been given, that is ambiguous grammar, and that is other one is non-ambiguous grammar. Ambiguous grammar is that we define a passing tree. If in our previous slide we have seen the what do you mean by passing tree, but if you have two distinguished passing tree, then we call it as ambiguous grammar. We have got two distinguished. What we have seen it in example, I have drawn one. If there is another part, if I'm getting the same example, C is equal to B plus 3, the same passing tree, but in a different format, means I'll show you up in an example, then it is called a passing tree. And a grammar is said to be non-ambiguous, unambiguous or non-ambiguous. It produces exactly one tree, means there is no different passing tree. There is no different passing tree based on that one. So ambiguous is a grammar where we can have a passing tree, two passing tree, whereas non-ambiguous is a process where we do not have any passing tree, only one passing tree is example for it. That's the thing of example. Now let's move on to this one. There is a grammar which we have defined it here. Let me go through this one pen. There is a grammar, E tends to E plus E, or, again I'm telling you, or, this means or. If you see this one, this is or. E is equal to, E tends to E star star, E star E, or E is equal to ID. This is non-terminal. So we have a grammar which says that E is equal to, E tends to E plus P, or E star E, or E is equal to 10. So let's take an example. I have got E, E plus E. E is equal to E plus E. Yes, I've got it. Then E is equal to ID also. I have taken ID. Then E is equal to E star E. Yes, I have taken E star E. E is equal to ID. ID, there is one passing tree. On other passing tree is that E is equal to E star E. I can take E star A. Here I have taken E plus E. Here I have taken E star E. Then E plus E ID. See the difference of passing tree. This is one passing tree. This is other passing tree. So if you have two passing tree of different way to traverses, then we call it as a ambiguous. If you don't have that one, then we call it as non-ambiguous. The meaning of this one, which I have already told you, a grammar which have two or more distinct passing tree is said to be ambiguous. A grammar which is not having an which cannot be have not more than one tree, then we call it as non-ambiguous. So this is what an ambiguous. An example. So if they asked you in an examination, they can what they can ask you, explain ambiguous with an example, ambiguous grammar, or what do you mean by ambiguous grammar. They can explain what do you mean by CFG, or explain what do you mean by passing tree. These are the parts which you can able to ask you in the examination. What we have seen it, these are the different part of it. A passing tree, correct? This is what ambiguous. Let's go to your syllabus, which is already there. Look, ambiguous grammar we have seen, passing tree we have seen ambiguous grammar. Now let's move on to attribute grammar. What do you mean by attribute grammar? Attribute grammar is something like that. If you have seen a grammar or something like that, E tends to E plus E, or E tends to E star E, or E tends to ID. What we define here in attribute grammar is that we are giving a value to that attribute. What value it stands for? Let's take an example. E has some value. I'll go for the pen. E have got some values. E has got some values, about 3. So I'll write E value 3. E value, what is the value? 3. So ambiguous attribute grammar is something like that which give value to your attribute. The example, an attribute grammar is the context-free grammar, CFG, where each attribute evaluate rules called semantic functions. Each attribute variable associated with one or more non-terminals or terminal of the grammar. An example, the attribute value associated with the non-terminal E is given by E value. What is the value? An example, attribute grammar is something like that, where we are assigning a value to a terminal or non-terminal. Okay, we are assigning a value to it. Just one sentence we can say that one. Attribute value is something we are assigning a value to it. One sentence is more than enough for you to go through it. An example for it is that this one. Let's take an example. We have a syntax E naught E1 plus T. So E naught value semantic. This is our syntax which we have given it. Then we give this one as semantic. Meaning of it means what does, what it does. So correct? Syntax you have given it. Now we are giving a semantic. E value, E1 value, T value. T means token, constant, whatever it is. We have given the value for it. For an example, E value, attribute value which pass up the passing tree because it is used to compute E naught value. Such attributes are called synthesized attribute. Such attributes are called synthesized attribute. Attribute whose value are passed down the tree are called inherited attribute. You have seen in C++ or you have seen somewhere down the line where you can say that attribute value is something. Cancel. So we have seen somewhere that one attribute values based on that inheritance you have seen in data structure or something like that. The example which for this one is that in our slides is consider the following attribute grammar. Syntax E naught value, E value, ET is equal to E value, T value. T is T1 star, F is a constant, T naught value is equal to T1 value, F value, TF value is F value, T constant, F value, constant value. For an example, if we derive 4 plus 2, 3, E value, we are going to a passing tree, E value plus 3. As I told you, we cannot divide not more than 3. It has the E value plus T value. What is E value? Constant value T, token, then T value is 4. Let me go through it. Yeah, it is there. 4 value, 4, 2, 3. It is coming like this. Okay. 4 value 2 plus. So how you have derived it? The only thing is that in an attribute, what you are going to define is the semantic meaning of it. How, what are the values it is having on a runtime and how it is going to take it. Whereas in syntax, we define something different. So attribute value is the value which we are given it. This is what an attribute value is. That an example which is given to you. Now let's go on to other one. Denotation semantic. Denotation semantic, which is the second part of your unit 1. Denotation grammar, denotation semantic and axiomatic. We are going to see this part. Okay. Denotation syntax describe how it looks. Semantic describe what it should be. There are 3 main styles to describe semantic: operational, denotational, and axiomatic. There are 3 things which describe the programming, describe your programming or semantic or something like that. The syntax describe how it looks, the semantic describe what it should be, and there are 3 main styles describe semantic: operational, denotation, and axiomatic. Now we are seeing what do you mean by other one. In computer science, a denotation semantic is nothing but your mathematical expression which give the intermediate values of that one. It was discovered by 1970. Christopher and Dana Scott published in this one, and the major important point of it in denotation is that it will give you the intermediate value of a function. Intermediate value, how you calculate the intermediate value of a function. I describe the meaning of expression for a language approach. I'll give you an example. With this one, I can able to, if the p is a whole function, the intermediate function is denoted by this value. If p is a value, it is denoted by this value. We are going to see this one. We are going to see in an example. Then we are going to see how it looks at. Other one is just go on to this one. For example, the parts MNN produce a denotation which provide with an environment that binding of 2 free variable. NNM, if the environment has value 3 and M has a value of 4, it give you 5. The most important thing is that for an example, intermediate, if you have zeros and 1, let's take example. If you have zeros and 1, we call it as 0 and function which resulted. 1 is an argument, 1 is the result, 0 is the argument. Okay. 4 is the argument, 3 is the result for it. This is the intermediate function, how it is represented in denotational semantic. Okay. These are the ways we have. Let's take an example. For an example, I'll go up. There is an example which is given. I'll go my example. Control F, delete. Let's take an example. I'll just derive an example. Let's take example int n I printf enter the value of n /n scanf %d ampersand n for I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to n, I plus printf. An example which we are going to print, a simple example, the value of I is equal to %d I. Right? We don't know what we are going to see, all those one. Now let's take an example. I'll go for this one. I is equal to 1. I'll give printf enter the value I've given as 5. Okay. I is equal to 1. 1 less than or equal to 5. Control here. What is the value of I? Output. I'll write it down here. Output I is equal to 1. Control goes back. I becomes 2. 2 less than 5. Second part, 2 less than or equal to 5. Control comes here. Output is 2. It becomes 3. 3 less than or equal to 5. Output is 3. It becomes 4. 4 less than or equal to 5. I is equal to 4. It becomes 5. 5 less than or equal to I is equal to 5. It becomes C. Control comes out of this loop. Okay. Now what was the value? I is equal to 1. First time I is equal to 2, second time I is equal to 3 third time, I is equal to 4 fourth time, I is equal to 3 5 time. These are my intermediate value. I'm going to capture these values. I've already captured these values. Correct? I is equal to 1, I is equal to 2, I is equal to 3, I is equal to 4. So demotation. So what do you mean by this one here? Look here. Denotational capture the intermediate values. For an example, int function is there. Int function is there. F is equal to factorial function is there. F is equal to 0. If n is equal to 0, return 1. Else factorial n minus 1. F of 0, there is no set. F of 1, 0 or 1. F of 5, 0 1, 0 1 1, 2 2, 3 6, 6 4. F of 0 is 1. We know that one. F of 1 means factorial of 1 is 1. Factorial of 2 is 2. Factorial of 3 is 6. Factorial of 4 is 24. So f of 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. F of 5, if I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 5. So factorial of 0 is 1. Factorial of 1 is 1. This is what I call it up. Go back to the previous slide. What do I call it as? This I correspond argument. Argument is 1 0. So this is my argument, this is my result. 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 What it is capturing? What is this capturing? This is my intermediate value. When you run the factorial of 4, it will give me 24. It will give me the value of 24. What I have done it? I have calculated f of 0, f of 1, f of 2, f of 3. These are all my intermediate values which calculate the values. I'm capturing that intermediate values. What does it do? Denotational mean the whole function, and p is the partial function of it. What do you mean by partial? Sorry, there is a spelling mistake for it. I'll just I'll modify that one. The partial function of it. Okay. So we are calculating the intermediate. If you see here also, what I have done it. Here I have calculated, I have captured the intermediate value. I know if I don't write it, if I don't write this one, the value of I just write I is equal to I plus 1, and the red print up the value of I, whatever the value, 5 plus 1, I'll get the value of 6 at the end. If I write a print statement here, I'll get the value of I is equal to 6 at the end. I don't want that 6, I want all the values intermediate. So this function will do this part. Okay, this is what denotational semantic, which represent this one. Example, which I have already given this one, factorial of a function, and I have already explained you with this one. So we will stop here. There is a last part which is left out. We will see in our next class part of this one. Then we'll move on to next unit. Thank you very much for your class and everything. Thank you.